All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode here on the Lure Lab, a part of the Serious Angler Network. Today's episode is going to be a good one. We have Bailey Eggbright joining us, the main creator of the Serious Angler Network and brainchild of all hardbait fishing. So we figured we'd bring him on here and chat about his selection of hardbaits for kayak fishing. As always, I am your host, the captain, Andrew Full. And buddy, it's been a while since I've seen your face.
Yeah, brainchild of hardbait fishing. That's a interesting title. I would say the prime example of what not to do. Do not copy this guy.
I just want to throw some comedic
Shade.
relief into our listeners to start off this episode, you know?
Yeah, especially since it's our obviously they can't see it, but it's our second time trying to record this. Hopefully my mic that I've never had a single issue with decides it's gonna work this time.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
but no, dude, it's been good. I haven't been on the Lure Lab since the OG days when we were starting it up, because you've been rocking it, and it's good to be back with the folks that's
Yeah, since
not on
like
the serious angler
episode
side.
5, and I think this is like 62 or 63 now. So we've
Yeah.
been going headstrong here, and it's been really fun. But no, so the reason for the joke was the reason why I haven't seen you in a while is we took a week off from the main network page, right? Because there's a lot of new things coming there. So I figured we preface that before we get into our favorite baits from 2023, and those were the hard baits. But yeah, like, what are the changes coming to the big network for those who may have never listened over there to our main show, that might be just listeners here, and what to look for, and maybe the reason why they should jump over there and listen?
The main change is the podcast is canceled. No, I'm just kidding. The
Dum, dum,
big
dum.
change is we took a couple weeks off here because obviously the whole format for 2024 is going to change in regards to, if anything, really in addition to the show. Not much is going away. And so what we're going to do is we're going down to, instead of 2 episodes a week, we're going to do one live stream on Tuesday nights where we've been going live on Tuesday nights for a couple years now. We're still going to go live at 8 p.m. Eastern, like always, on the YouTube channel, but it's going to be a longer show around that 2 to 3 hour range from a YouTube standpoint. And what we're going to do is segment it into 2 parts, where the first part is like we've always done, either have an angler on or have a topic that we're going to discuss from a learning standpoint. And, like our motto that we always like try to claim is, forever a student. And so we're going to have fun with that. Keep the same message that we've had for Serious Angler since the beginning going there. But what we're going to do is segment the middle and get into a new, or have a second part, or a part 2 to each show, if you will. That is going to be a game show, something more on the fun side. We'll have our guests stay for that one, or we'll have even new guests. We'll add a couple people to it and have some fun with that. And what we're going to do from the MP3 side for people that are listening on podcast is we're going to splice that in 2. So if you listen on podcasts, you guys always know we have an upload or 2 uploads a week, Wednesday, Friday. We're still going to have that. It's just going to be from the same episode. So we're going to give you the nitty gritty, the juice on a Wednesday, and give you some fun on a Friday. So that's going to be it's going to make Andy and I's lives a lot easier because we got a lot going on. But we think in the end, it's going to make a better product for you guys. So we're excited for it. Starting next week, it might start a little rough, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to the change. I think it's gonna be fun, and it's gonna add some more humor into our episodes, and kind of have like a not so serious feel like at some times. Maybe not as explicit, but maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more fun, and not so just straight educational and straightforward approach. So that'll be a really good change of pace. But we should digress and hop right in to our hard baits. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So no order here, not one, two, or three of our favorites, just generality. So what is one of your top eights from 2023, and
You
why?
want me to start at my like numero uno, or do you want me to lead up to it?
No, no, you can do whatever order you want. It doesn't matter.
All right. I'll start off hot then, because
Hot.
the one that I got to put it at number 1 for me, because I had my biggest bag of the year on it. I've been diving deep into it, unfortunately, for my wallet.
I know what you're
And
doing.
yeah. It's just like it's been easy to use. If you know just a relative setup to get started, it can be rewarding from a learning standpoint, but also from a catching standpoint. And that is a glide bait. I know some people might be saying, hard baits, glide baits. Obviously, it's relatively the same category, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. And that is the Spro KGB Chad Shad. I got this one here. I think it's the HD. I think it's the Ghost Gizzard. I'll have to pull up the color specifically. There's only like 3 or 4 different colors of these things.
It could be threadfin or gizzard, right? It's one of those two.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's gizzard. I think it's like Ghost Gizzard, something along the lines, because it has some translucency to it. But these are about $70, and they are extremely consistent, straight out of the package. I believe, honestly, I think these are even still stock hooks on here. But I posted.
They're gummies, so they're good hooks.
Yeah, they're decent out of the pack. I didn't really switch them because honestly, I wasn't really expecting them to work that good that fast, and I just honestly haven't had the need to change them just yet. But posted my first ever solo Dirty 30 this year mix bag on this thing. With a PB 7.4 Northern largemouth, over 6.5 pound smallmouth on it too. It's extremely consistent. You can chop it, you can work it slow sink. It's one that is very versatile, and obviously, I think if anybody's been keeping up, it's been taken off a little bit since it was dropped. Obviously, you have the KGB version, but the Spro KGB, I feel like if anything, and again, I want to put an asterisk on this because I know this community are a bunch of diehards, and I've been trying to learn it, but this is more consistent than a KGB. If you get a really good KGB, it's unbelievable, but it's a little bit more when you have the production from Spro, you get a little bit more consistent.
Instead of being a resin, it's like the ABS plastic, I think is what they call it, right?
Yeah. And I definitely think the KGBs are worth it. I just think if you're looking from my mindset of and more entry level side of a quote unquote swim baiter, the Spro is the one. It's a little bit cheaper, but also more consistent if you want to learn and kind of get used to the style of throwing a glide bait.
I think your new motto should be, Bailey, if you're not gliding, you ain't trying.
Yeah. I guess I was doing this a lot this year, but then I'm also a finesse guy, so it's kind of full spectrum.
Yeah, full spectrum. Just like you're like yin and yang when it comes to fishing, right? Like, give me a spinning rod or the biggest broomstick I can throw.
Pretty much, I kind of go all over the place. If you look at my setups, it'll be like this tiny little Demiki rig, and then there's this big glide bait.
So, what are you throwing your glide bait on?
So, what I threw this on this past year, and really, this is part of my journey down the swim bait rabbit hole that I need to get better with, because it really wasn't anything crazy. It was just a simple 7.9 heavy fast. It was actually a Fenwick Elite rod. And it was, so I know some guys like to use, I know there's a Dobbins Fury 7.9, I think it's a 7.95 SB that I threw it on a little bit. Like if I wanted to have a couple glide baits, that was another rod I would throw this on. Just a very universal, not too big of glide baits, but something that's not small either, because it might be, this might be able to fit in my hand relatively, but it does have some weight to it. You can't just go throw it around with a normal jig rod. You can get the job done, but it's definitely better off when you have a longer, more stout rod. I threw 20-pound fluorocarbon. Some guys like that 25 or 25 mono. I'm still, again, just tinkering around with that. And then just had a Corrado K 200. Definitely need to try to beef up to Alexa or a Tranks. Everyone's telling me to go to a Tranks. So again, very simple setup. I mean, the rod reel combination, especially right now with the Corrado K's being so discounted, is under, I think it's under $400, probably around $330, $350. So, yeah, pretty simple, man.
I like it. Now, are you a split ring guy? Like, do you or do you tie direct?
I mean, I'm as simplistic as it gets with this. I literally tied straight to it, but I definitely had a few guys. I'll shout out our boy Brendan Brown from Brown Bait Co. He's like, dude, you need to use split rings. He kind of harped on me a little bit, but he's kind of one of my liaisons, if you will,
Or at
to
least like a
the
loop knot, right? So it gives it a little bit more.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
same as you would like a top water. Definitely need to do that because it'll probably walk even better. But yeah, there's a lot to it. It's a whole new world to kind of dive into. But
Cue
it's
the
been
Aladdin music.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No, so I just want to throw a side note in there too, real fast. Down in the description, all these baits, rods, reels that we're using will be linked down below, and there's also a code for Sirius 10 at Omnia. So if you click directly on the link, it'll take you right to the website. Make sure you use the discount code, and if there's anything that you like in these episodes, on every episode it's listed, you can save 10% and buy a bunch of cool baits all at the same place, and they also have free shipping. So that's awesome. And it comes really quick and convenient. But all right. So I guess I'll hop into my top hard bait. I don't even know if it's top. All three of these kind of played a pivotal role for me throughout the year in different seasons. But a jerk bait that I come to really, really like alongside with like a Vision 110 is the Provoke 106. I got three different colors that I caught fish on basically all year with forward facing. I know forward facing sonar, dirty water. I don't remember any names of the baits. Clear water. This is like a albino. This is a clear like threadfin shad color. Then bluegill when I was fishing largemouth lakes, and they worked in different conditions. I threw them mostly in the spring, but then in the summertime I threw them a lot more because of forward facing sonar. You can see how fish are reacting, and believe it or not, a lot of crappie will eat these, so it's a lot of fun
Mhm.
that way. But real simple setup. I'm not going to get deep into the rabbit hole like Bailey did with his glide bait because I know he loves that thing and everyone
Right.
throws a jerk bait, right? So my setup was an Alpha Angler Slasher 6'10" medium action rod with a left-handed Corrado MGL 70 with 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon to help get that bait down to the desired depth that I wanted with it. And then every once in a while, after these hooks, stock hooks came on it, dulled out, I'd switch them out and put owner ST36s on them, which all those ones are in the boat. So, but yeah, the 6 cents Provoke, it's a little bit of a different option of a jerk bait for those who like 110s or even the Berkeley Stunna, which are great jerk baits. Just gives a little bit different action, a little bit different profile, help put a few more fish in the boat. And I became a big believer of this jerk bait the past year. So, yeah. What's your
Pretty
number two?
nifty, man.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
do
a
like
good
the
one.
provoke.
I
Definitely
also
gives
like
off
the
a
Loco
more
too. The 13 fishing Loco special. Like they all have a time and place.
yeah, dude. It's becoming one of those things now where it's like you can either have one you have a lot of confidence in, or it's one where it's like now I'm dedicating 3 to 4 different setups that are strictly for jerk baits that are gonna have, a different brand for a different situation because now with forward facing being able to tell us what fish are liking and not liking, it can kind of give you like if they want a bigger bait presentation, Provoke gives off that bigger, beefier bait
Yeah.
versus that of like a 110 for Megabass. So like the Provoke definitely gives off something completely different. I want to try they have like a more junior size in
Yeah. They just came up the
a silent, I think.
97X, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to try that one as well.
Yeah, it's funny.
Um,
Like you say that though, like in a rotation, I feel like I had a 110, a Provoke, a re-range, which is a Jackal, and then a Stunna basically all spring long on my deck. And every day they
mm,
would eat a different one in a different color. It didn't matter.
yeah, I mean, if you guys go check the Lure Lab page, we have I think we posted it already. If not, you'll see it. But there's a picture of my tackle box with all the different brand jerk baits,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's probably a good 10 different brands that all will catch fish. So it's I think in the end, it's about the angler. I mean, there are certain times where certain brands will work better than the other. But in the end, it's just all about the cadence and the angler and understanding that what that fish want. But I'll ride the jerkbait train.
I like it.
It's kind of hard to. I feel like if you're a hardcore bass guy, the jerkbait plays uh, year round at this point. And it's one where I feel like fish are seeing a lot of them. They're seeing a lot of Megabass 110s that size, jerkbait, stunnas. I did love a Berkeley stunna this year, especially being able to allow that because it sinks, allow that thing to get a little bit deeper than the rest of the
Mhm.
jerkbaits I was throwing. But one that I found that I could get bit on, especially when fish would follow it, even all the way up to the boat, and they wouldn't eat. Something that's a little bit smaller. and it's the Mega Bass Vision 110 +1 Junior. So it's a lot smaller profile than your standard 110. And it seemed like I would get more bites with it, and it wouldn't like big fish would still come up and eat it. Like it wouldn't be like you're just getting numbers and smaller fish. You're still getting those bigger bites. So it's kind of interesting, especially those more clear water fisheries. You can see how super translucent that color is right there. A little flashy on bottom. I don't even know the freaking name of it, to be honest with you.
It's one of the Edo colors, so
yeah. And set up like Andy was saying, is super simple. It was a 610 medium light Abu Garcia Veritas tournament. It's about I think $150 rod. This Shimano SLX MGL 70 definitely was really nice
put a
for throwing.
Shimano reel on an Abu rod.
Hey, get out of here. That MGL is definitely nicer for throwing the smaller jerk baits. And then 10-pound fluorocarbon. And I did actually swap out the hooks from Megabass to Ichikawa's. And they definitely seem to weight pretty well on the
what size?
Junior. I want to say 6. It was a step up from what I use.
They look a little bigger, so
they are a little bit bigger. And that's one thing I found too, is that if this thing sinks a little bit, I find that to be a good thing, honestly. But they're the size that I actually use to put on the back of my spy baits, because I use a little bit bigger treble on the back of my spy baits. And I found that honestly, when I was looking at it in the water, it balances just fine. It doesn't take away from the action. And if anybody's thrown Ichikawas, you know that about just about every fish is coming in the boat.
They also will go in your hand quite quickly. So be
in the boat and anywhere in your clothes or your body. They come near.
They feel great. Sticky. No, that's a fun little jerkbait. I got a bunch of them. I started throwing them a while ago. I just can't find a rod I like to throw them on. So I think I need to get like a lighter action rod.
Yeah, and so I've used the slasher like you talked about. The Veritas tournament I was throwing is like very much more on that medium light side.
Yeah.
So it's one. Yeah.
I say I have the slasher light, which was designed for those, but I think the hook's still like, because I throw it on the stock hooks because I can't find a hook that I like. So I'm going to try upsizing them like you did. But I was always flexing hooks out and losing fish, but they eat that dang thing like it's nobody's business. They love that little jerkbait. So
yeah, I think the biggest thing on jerkbait, and you can even apply this to topwater too, is trying to get away with the biggest hook you can that, one, doesn't take away from your action, but two, as long as they don't touch. If they don't touch, you're good. And if it doesn't affect the action, the more surface area you can get from a gap standpoint on a jerkbait or a topwater, really any treble, the better. Yeah. So it does take some tinkering in like being on the water, switching out trebles, seeing how it works, things like that. Again, that's where forward facing can come in too, to see what your bait's doing out in the abyss, because your bait's going to act completely different with 10 feet of line out versus 50.
Yeah, I agree. Silly jerk baits. Have you tried going down to like 8-pound with that Junior +1?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the hot zone that I found with it as well. So
I'll go to 6. Doesn't work.
Bait number 2 for me is I love topwater fishing, and I've always been like a huge Rico fan, which is a Labina. They're very expensive poppers, but I found, I think, a close second. So that's going to be one of my top lures of 2023 was the KVD Splash. And Bass Fishing HQ, his page over there, Tyler, talks a lot about this popper. The 3 colors that I have it is the bone. There's a black one. I forgot the exact name. I have it pulled up here, but the black, it's actually black lab. So it's got a lot of like green and silver and gold flake in it. And then the Clearwater minnow, which is their ghost minnow, are the 3 colors I use. Almost always though was the bone or the black. If it was low light, slick calm black, as the sun came up, I threw bone for whatever reason, got a lot of bites. And then if it was really sunny and calm, that's when I would throw the Clearwater minnow. I like throwing along docks and trees, just really target specific rich areas. And it put a lot of bass in the boat for me from like August through middle of September, when I was doing a lot of largemouth trips with clients, throwing along docks underneath trees and not so much open water casting, but real precise, close combat fishing. Setup was the same. Alpha Angler Slasher. Did use the top water rod a little bit as well, which is a 7-foot medium. I was a 15-pound mono guy. I don't do braid to mono with poppers just because I don't want extra connection knots, etc. I just want it straight to the lure. And I'm only fishing at 30, 40, maybe 50 feet from the boat at most. So I feel like the mono's not a big deal. You can get away with a little bit stiffer rod, which is the Slasher at the tip, deep parabolic bed, along with the top water rod. So it allows you to adequately work the bait properly, chugging it along. And this is a really good spitting, chugging popper. You can actually get the walk side to side a little bit as well if you use like a perfection loop knot on it instead of tying directly on. And those are 3 colors that caught a ton of fish for me. And then I use an 8-to-1 gear ratio. So after I pop it 3 or 4 times, I actually burn it back and make another cast. As I find with a popper, they almost always eat it immediately or within like 3 or 4 feet of the boat. So yeah, that was my number 2.
Big popper guy.
I love popper fishing. Absolutely
Yes,
love
he
it.
always has one.
After like, I think like June 20th, I almost always have a popper tied on if I'm inland fishing, like inland lake, largemouth, Finger Lakes, any type of body of water that has a lot of bluegills. I feel like a popper works really well.
Yeah. And there's one thing we've learned, like a buzzbait, it'll work in cold water too.
Yeah. Just got to slow it way down.
Almost to the point where it's boring to throw.
Yeah.
All right. Last one, right?
Yep.
All right.
What you got there, kayak guy?
So I want to put an asterisk on that. Well, people might say, you could throw all this stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
there's
I just like poking fun of you, Tupperware Army.
I know. Hey, easy there,
you're
killer.
Fine. One of these days,
my
I'll
biggest
get
pet peeve. I'll get you in there. You'll do it one time.
I'm gonna fall.
I hate the whole. There's a kayak rod. Get out of here.
No,
all the
honestly,
same.
like
you're doing the same thing.
I will argue. I'm not even gonna argue that. I feel like if a company is coming out with a kayak rod, and this isn't like any shade on any kayak, like any rod companies, I feel like it's just a marketing grab, trying to get
100%.
people to buy products. Because you can get away with a 1-piece 7.5-foot rod flipping grass just like you can on a boat. So
yeah, I mean, I punch with a 710 sitting down in a kayak. Like I can do it standing up, sitting down. It doesn't matter. If the rod is good for the action or the technique, then rock with it. Never seen an issue yet. Okay, so last bait that I have is one that I've always associated being a springtime bait, but in traveling around the country a little bit, talking with some people, learning with some from guests that we've had on Serious Angler, things like that. I always thought that a lipless crankbait was going to be simply just a springtime lure for me, but definitely have learned if there are shad heavy lakes, it is an all year round bait. Where it's one you can obviously there's different ways you can fish it, but it's one if there is a heavy population of shad, it will work. There might be times where some things are better than it, of course, but definitely excels. I feel like in the spring, but nonetheless, I have been trying to force myself to keep this out and ready to go throughout the summer, throughout the fall. And it's definitely proved me wrong in regards to being quite a good bait anywhere, anytime. This is the Spro Aruka Shad. It's a smaller one. It's a 65. I don't remember the specific color name. It's basically like a translucent sexy shad. Really good on super clear water fisheries. This one I've definitely fallen in love with. I mean, I think like my jerkbait box, I have a lot of traps as well, from LV 500s to Strike King Red Eye Shads. Those are classics. Can't go wrong with those. And this one just added a little bit different of a profile for me, and it definitely seems to be a lot louder than most of your other lipless crankbaits. So it's
I think this is where you and I differ with lipless crankbaits. Is the fact I love one knockers and you want the loudest rattling, annoying.
I hate one knockers. I don't know why.
Yeah, see, and I catch 99% of my fish on lipless with one knockers. So it's kind of crazy. But like in mine and your taste of lipless is completely different. And that's the cool part about fishing in general is like everyone has their own favorites. I'm a big Jackal TN guy. So in the one
Those are great
knocker
ones
red
too.
eye shad, yeah.
I got those. I picked up and I've been trying that new Nomad designs. I'm trying to
The
remember the freaking
three
name of it.
I can't remember, but there's like three different ones and they all do their own thing, right?
One's a soft one. One's it has a pretty interesting design on top that allows it for some more side to side rotation. It's really cool, actually. Um, might be something you should get Greg DePalma on because he actually won a kayak tournament out of that thing with it.
Yeah, that
Um,
the first kayak tournament he fished, right? On
yeah,
Gunnersville.
bastard. But yeah, dude, it's just one for me that, like, in the springtime, I've always found really good success throwing it. Me and everybody else that lives around the country throws a one in the spring. And it's one where it's like I'll do straight reel and just some small pops, different cadences. Where definitely found times in the summer or even the fall when you get fish chasing bait, they're schooling up on things, or they're a population of school fish, that you can just burn the living hell out of it. And they will absolutely smoke it. So it's one where it's like I always thought, I don't know why. It was like this mental gap that once the spawn was over, that a trap wasn't going to work. And it's
It's
like, hey,
just like a
dummy.
jerk bait. We all thought the jerk bait would be done
Yeah.
in the spring, and now we know it works all summer as well.
Yeah.
So
It's like same thing with speed cranking. It's like, oh, it's cold. They're not going to eat it fast. No, they'll eat it when it goes fast in the cold.
yeah, they got to eat.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, that's a good one. I always forget about lipless because for me, it's a very time specific thing for me up here in the north, and I throw up for like 2 weeks and I put it down. And I probably shouldn't because like as you're speaking, I'm like, ooh, there's these times on certain lakes where I'm like, I know they're eating shad because they're coughing it up at the boat. Maybe next time I see that, I'll make sure I have my lipless box in because I have an entire lipless box that's got like 110 baits in it, right? But I only use it for like 2 or 3 weeks of the year. So it's
Yeah.
just like I gotta throw that more. So thank you for the subtle reminder there.
Oh, yeah.
And then for my third bait, oh, we didn't. What rod do you throw it on? I forgot to ask
Oh,
you.
shoot. Yeah, duh. So I've been on this trend. I can't give a solid answer as of right now, but I'll tell people what I've been using this past year. For whatever reason, I used to always throw a 7 to 7.2 foot medium fast for my traps, and I was losing a lot of fish that way. Now you can get the job done. I want to say that, like, you can throw a trap on just about dang near everything, and you can catch them on it. It's just, what is my success rate, my land ratio, what is my percentage of fish that are actually eating it, and then also that I'm landing. And so with that, I've been studying a little bit, listening to podcasts, talking with people. We've had shows on this. Um, I've been going down that rabbit hole of the longer rod trend. And I actually got one this year I want to try to use it with. This past year, I've been throwing a 7.5 medium fast. It's a medium moderate fast, I should say. And it's been allowing for me one longer cast, but that longer rod definitely seems to, and higher gear ratio definitely seems to stick them better. Um, it allows them to grab the bait. It's almost kind of like that same thought process around a chatterbait, where how
Mhm.
you like a glass rod, because it allows that fish to get a hold of it first, so that it allows your reaction time to be a little bit delayed, which can lead to better hookup ratio physics things that I don't understand. But I got one this year that is a 710 medium heavy moderate fast.
I think
Um,
you're gonna like that.
it's going to be interesting. I tried it. I give the credits out to Joseph Webster, who's on the elites. I was fishing with him down in Florida, and I picked up the trap, and he had it on that exact rod. I think it was an Abu Ike rod that he had it on.
You could throw
I
it
tried
a
it.
country mile.
Oh my god! I damn near spooled his reel. And when I hooked one, I'm like, this feels amazing. And he was throwing it actually straight braid too, which down there makes sense. Up here, I'm sure you can get away with it. You just get more bites probably throwing fluoro. Um, but it's one where I definitely want to try that. And it seemed like the success rate of a longer rod at the trap was the way to go.
Hmm. Yeah, gonna have to try that too.
Yeah,
There's
it was interesting.
a mag rebound that Alpha makes. I think is gonna be have to be something I add in the arsenal for trap fishing. I've been throwing it on the Chatterbound, which is a 7.2, which is fine. I don't get as far of casts that I would like. So yeah, I might have to go up to the mag rebound and see if I like that.
Yeah. Try it out.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So now that we got Bailey set up, my bait number 3 this past fall that was really good for me was a spy bait. Ghost minnow, really translucent. You can tell that there's no hooks on this one. It's because I ripped them off and put them on another bait that I got hung up in some rocks. So I got to replace the trebles. But yeah, spy bait specifically in the 80 G fix was probably the best one for me. Throwing it on shallow flats, really sunny, calm conditions, and catching a lot of really big smallmouth with it. It's basically your do nothing technique. You're gonna cast it out. You have to find that perfect retrieve cadence, and you just want it to really shimmer and come in real nice and slow and almost hover above the fish's heads, and they'll come up and eat it. Some of the visual bites you get with this, if it's really sunny and clear, is awesome. Throwing it on the Alpha Angler, as you can tell, I'm very Alpha Angler heavy. 7.2 spy bait rod spinning with a size 20 or 2000 reel, because 2500 reel. And I like that because I found that I'm able to get a further casting distance because the line comes off closer to the spool so it doesn't get the big loops as it comes through the first guide. So I'm able to get 20 to 30 more feet, I feel like, with a 2500 size spool as opposed to a 3000 or 30 or 40 or 4000 size spinning reel, because more line comes off and it's not a direct shoot through the spinning rod. So going with the spy bait, even small swim baits, I went down to a smaller reel with like an 8 or 10 pound braid. Then I put on a fluorocarbon leader and 6 or 8 pound tests, and you're really able to launch that bad boy out there. It'll put a lot of fish in the boat regardless. And yeah, spy bait. Everyone should have it in their box for those sunny, clear, calm days.
Definitely agreed there. Are you you might have said it. Are you straight mono or are you braid to fluoro?
Braid to fluoro for
Braid to fluoro.
casting distance.
Yeah.
But I'll run
I'm with
like
that.
a 4 to 5 foot leader, sometimes even 8 foot leader on the fluorocarbon. And I really am just using the braid to really launch it out there. So once it gets out of the guides.
Yeah, I know there's some guys, especially out west, like the Midwest, I should say, that are big, kind of like that OGs of the hair. And you can get some Canadians that get on this too, but there's guys that throw like 4-pound nanofill that with like a 7.6 medium light that absolutely rocket launch that little piece of hair.
Dude, I used to love nanofill for drop shotting if I was casting, because one, it didn't stretch at all, and you could throw it like a country mile further than any other braid on the market. It was insane.
Yeah, but they bring that. I bring up the hair. I totally realized I left that off, not making any sense. They throw that smaller nanofill, that exact same setup on their spy baits, because it seems like with those smaller trebles, lighter braid, your hookup ratio can go up, especially when you're talking about a bigger reel. The bigger reel, the better the drag system in it. Yeah. And when you're dealing with treble hooks on a enraged smallmouth, I mean, it's nice with a largemouth because they might have a better chance to swallow that bait. Where smallmouth is going to be eating that thing. Chances are they have the back treble and they're going to be jumping around doing some hula hoops, and it seems like the braid keeps them connected a little bit better.
Yeah, that's where I use the cast braid because it's very similar to the nanofill and being super thin diameter and a 12 strand. So it's super tight weaved together. And I use it, I think it's in their 10-pound test, and it's like the equivalent of like 2-pound other braid because it's so tightly woven. I'm able to cast it really far. So yeah, that's what I do there. So do you have any honorable mentions you want to mention before we move on here and wrap up the show?
I'll say one that I feel like is getting lost in this current day of fishing. But I mean, people definitely obviously throw it still, and it's still super fun.
Is it a tiny glide?
No, it's not a tiny glide. It is one that anytime you see a clean like concrete or rock bank that you're just drooling to throw it, and it's a square bill. Not many. I feel like it's not talked about anymore. Because guys are fishing offshore. This arms race that's going on. People are talking about glide baits, swim baits is blowing up, and it's like the jerk bait is blowing up since forward facing sonar. Where people definitely still throw the square bill. Don't get me wrong; it's still a giantly used bait. It's just like one that doesn't get talked about a lot nowadays, and it's some of the most fun you can have just burning a square bill down the bank, boom, 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 and then your rod loads up. I'd say that one is just from a pure enjoyment standpoint. I love that.
You know what I am? I am a terrible square bill fisherman. I can't
You don't
tell
have
you
to
the
do
last.
anything. You just reel.
I
Like, I
know,
mean,
right?
obviously there's different cadences you can put it into
I
it, but
can't tell
it's
you
a
the
whole
last
other
time I
show.
caught a fish on a square bill. Probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's quite sad. I need to throw it more.
I need to. So what I did this past year, I'll actually throw it out there. The hybrid hunter is one that I've been mixing around a little bit, and or especially around grass. But I know some guys that will throw like a KVD, 2.0 or whatever around taking the tops of grass, and they absolutely wreck them.
Yeah.
It's one I need to learn.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mm.
what about you?
Ooh, you're making me think. Yeah, my honorable mention, something I'm gonna try to pick up and learn more in 2024, and I have a whole box of them sitting right here. Like I even have some of the really expensive fun ones, like a fish everything. Pull them out here. See, they're a jumbled mess. But this is my goal in 2024 is to mess around with these guys a little bit more.
Sheesh.
Yeah, mess. Gotta fish everything. Tattoo right here. Tattoo. So as you can tell too, I tie it directly to like a dummy. So I need to figure that out. But this is probably my favorite color KGB Chad as I'm making a racket here. I love the goat, like the bone. I've only caught big pike on it. You can see the teeth mark in it, but yeah.
The bone definitely has its place. I feel like in a more dingier standpoint, like up
Cloudy.
here in the north, like I'm going those bigger translucent baits where that one dirtier. Yeah, definitely cloudy. Some ripples in the water, windier.
Yeah.
That thing will glow.
Then I have this one here, which I watched a client. We went largemouth fishing one day. Not this exact one, but it's a fish everything. And this thing's got some incredible action to it to resin bait. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I should give you this.
Why?
Because I want you to catch a fish on it.
Okay. I won't say no to free baits.
What?
I won't say no to free baits.
Especially when they're $200 plus. So,
right.
Yeah, I should give it to you. So, yeah, it's yours. Well, next time I see you, remind me. I'll give it to you. So, but yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap this one up here. As always, down below in the description, everything will be linked below with the code going over to Omnia Series 10 to save you some cash. If you like any of these baits or you have them in your wish list of baits to buy, here's your chance to save a little bit of money on them, including all the accessories and the hooks and stuff will all be linked down below. As long as it allows me to put them all in because I know we listed a ton. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you're not new or you are new, leave a comment down below, maybe what your top 3 hard baits were for 2023. If you're on your favorite podcast platform and allows you to leave a review, please leave us a review. It helps this fishing podcast be seen by more people who like fishing. So, and then, as Bailey shakes his head no, we will see you all next week on the next week's episode of Here on the Lure Lab.